Hello, everyone, and welcome to Cosmere Counseling, a podcast exploring therapeutic lessons we can glean from the work of our favorite author, Brandon Sanderson. I'm Joseph, a licensed marriage and family therapist.
I'm Danielle, a board-certified behavior analyst.
And I'm Garrett, also a board-certified behavior analyst.
Our spoiler warning today, we're talking about the Stormlight Archive books 1 through 4, Way of Kings Through Rhythm of War. Nothing else in the Cosmere, no novellas, Words of Brandon, no Wind and Truth. None of that will apply to our topic today.
Hopefully soon, though. I think we're finishing up Wind and Truth. Hopefully we can talk about it pretty quickly here. It'll be exciting. Well, today, what we're going to talk about is we're going to look at our favorite group of social misfits turned heroes and how their friendship and brotherhood literally changed Roshar, changed its fate and everything. Talking about my favorite group, Bridge 4. So insert your Bridge 4 salute there, where you tap the wrists together, however you do it. Because we're going to be getting patriotic with our friends. Enjoying Bridge 4. I guess not patriotic. We're going to get group-biotic. I don't know. That's not a word. Anyways, we're going to talk about Bridge 4 and we're going to love on them today. So the main topics we want to discuss are just their overall group dynamic as this band of brothers, since they go through quite the transformation to become such a close group. We want to do a special zoom in at Kal and Teft's relationship, where that's a big driver of the story, and it has a lot of good lessons that we can learn from it. And then with every light, there's a dark, so we need to get into a contrasting example, talk about the gross monster that was born in Bridge 4, which is Moash, and I guess his transformation, since, I don't know, I didn't hate Moash at the very beginning of Way of Kings, so it's important to explore how we lost him, how he went downhill. So that's kind of our overall layout. The reason we want to talk about this is that social connections are an important part of our lives, and they can really influence us and our overall quality of life. So depending on these relationships we choose to strengthen and the connections we make or break with others around us, our lives can really take those drastically different turns. So we want to show how Bridge 4 can be a model for all of us to find those healthy social connections through our friends and family. And we want to look at some of those red flags and non-examples that we can keep our guard up for as we're navigating our daily life. Social situations are tricky.
A lot of people struggle, right, to find good friends and to make good friends and so on and so forth, because it's a complex dynamic when you get a group of individuals together.
Bridge 4 is a great example, so I'm excited to delve into them. I guess for a summary of who they are, for those of you who haven't read in a while, Kaladin gets thrown into Sadeas's bridge crews, which are basically a death sentence. The people in the bridge crews, they run the bridges out onto the Shattered Plains ahead of the army, and they're not given shields or armor, so many die. They just are under Parshendi fire and usually lose half their number every time. And so the people in the bridge crews they're considered expendable, and they get stuck in this state of learned helplessness. They know they're going to die tomorrow. They don't talk to each other. They just wait for their death. And Kaladin is thrown into this situation, and he eventually pulls himself and his whole bridge crew out of that slump. He shows compassion to them despite that bad circumstance they're all in. He treats them like people. He treats them like a team. He starts to bring up some of that spirit of, we have a purpose in this army. We need to be the best bridge crew we can be. And they go on, of course, to escape the bridge crews. They become Dalinar's guards, and then later become the First Order of the Windrunners. They become an authority in the Radiant armies. They have many others looking up to them, many others join them, and just a really big transformation. But they're always Bridge 4.
Wow, thanks for summarizing that for us. Yeah, they're always Bridge 4. They are always staying together. It's crazy how far they go. I think that's just awesome that they can make that transformation. Something that stuck out to me while you were doing that whole introduction, Danielle, is how they literally carry the burden together. Their burden is that giant bridge, and they literally have to carry it together. If too many of them falter, they die, and the bridge just falls. So they actually have to work as a team, whether or not they like each other, but they chose to like each other and share that burden. Something that really stuck out to me is when Kaladin takes Rock's place at the head of the bridge. So For those of you that haven't listened in or haven't read it in a bit, there's a spot in the bridge. They called it like the kill zone or something at the very front that the people that were there usually died, and the bridge leader never had to run there. Well, Kaladin decides to run there and he kicks Rock out of the spot. And Rock says, I would have died if I had been there, but because you were there, we survived. Rock's already catching on that there's something special about Kaladin. And I think that just shows that Kaladin was willing to share that burden because they're literally going through hell. It is so tough. And he chose to share it instead of just doing his part and not worrying about anyone else. He chose to actually share it.
And this is a situation where when push comes to shove, right? We oftentimes our first human instinct is self-preservation, and so that's why in many situations when the stress gets really really high, when the stakes become high, people often will push each other under the bus, trying to be the last one standing and things like that. But a true friendship can are ones that withstand those type of trials, and that they continue to look out for one another even when the stress is high, because they know that's the only way they're getting out of it.
I think in that story, like when that happened, Kaladin was the leader at the time, right? So he was entitled to the back of the bridge. And he was able to, even though he had that safe option in front of him, he was able to say, I choose these relationships. I choose to be a leader of these people. And that means going to that front dangerous spot, which is really powerful.
It's super powerful. I think the stepping into it, as you said, it helped them see that he wants to go through it with them together. And I think that really cements that bond.
There's just this element of going through something that brings up strong emotions with other people, whether it's a positive or a negative experience. It makes that relationship stronger. You feel more of that connection. It deepens that connection.
I think sometimes even the simplest thing of just falling through and being there for them, or like you said, sharing those strong emotions. So I had a friend growing up, and before this, we were good friends. But after this experience, I feel like that's really what cemented us as becoming like best friends, and kind of like to the point where the rest of our friend group kind of saw it. But I was with one of my friends, and we had this scary street nearby our houses called Badger Cove. And I know, funny name, it doesn't sound very scary, but it like went down this creepy hill to this creepy house, and it was a dead end. And so one night me and my friend decided to drive down that street, just us two. Everyone else was going to a party we didn't want to really go to. And so we drove down, and as we got down to the house, this guy jumped out of nowhere. Like, it was terrifying. And so my friend threw the car into reverse and tried to reverse back up this hill, which in hindsight probably wasn't the right call. I mean, no one drives well when they're reversing. So he drives off the road, and we're on this really big hill, and we actually end up getting stuck like sideways on the hill. The car luckily didn't roll. I think this would be a very different story if it had rolled. And so we were just stuck there, and we were safe. It was just a lot of high emotions, and he was freaking out. He was calling his mom. And the biggest thing, he was like, you can't tell your parents this, Garrett, because then they'll never want you to hang out with me again. And, I'm in high school at the time. So I said, yeah, I'm not going to tell my parents. They found out later, which is why I can tell this story on this podcast, knowing that my family listens to this podcast. So, but I think the act of just being there for him, not judging him for driving us off the road, and then following through on what I said I would do, we all survived. No one got hurt. Just showing that you're going to follow through for your friend. I feel like that really changed things. And we hung out like every single day after that. Yeah, became my best friend, told him everything. He told me everything. So it was just a cool way to see how going through something really tough, no one wants to go through driving a car off a road. It's not fun, but it helped us just stay close as friends.
And there is a way that you can build this kind of a friendship with someone without getting into a car crash. If you have a goal, you have something you want to accomplish. It might be something as simple as wanting to do well in a test or develop a certain attribute, or I wanted to treat my spouse better in a specific way. And you can invite a friend that you trust to support you in doing that, in accomplishing that goal. Invite them to be your action partner. And when we do that, we're inviting someone into our lives in a different capacity than just being someone you hang out with, but you are experiencing growth and having meaningful experiences with, right? And so doing this can start to help develop and deepening that relationship. Uh, you don't need to have to run a bridge crew in order for that to happen, but to support in each other's growth is one easy way that we can do that.
You bring someone else into a vulnerable part of your life, which strengthens a relationship.
Right.
Which is really hard. Like being vulnerable, it's still something I struggle with. It's tough to be vulnerable, even in the simple things. So if you're listening and thinking, man, I can't even open up about my day being hard, you're not alone. That's so common. I feel like that's harder than going through a car crash sometimes, is just saying, hey, I'm having a rough day.
And something that also happens, psychologically, is when we share our vulnerability with others, and invite their help, invite their assistance, that tells them, "Hey, I need you in my life because I trust you, and I am at a point where I would like to grow, and you are needed to be a part of my growth." And that can quickly turn into a sense of belonging. Like, you belong here. I need you. And in this case, in Bridge 4, they are all going through the same experience. And they're starting to learn that when they support each other, they are all needed as a team and they all belong in this team.
That makes me think of, Joseph, I read a really cool article recently about belonging. It was research that looked at all of the research that's been done on belonging and teased out the main components that go into having a sense of belonging. And one of them was creating opportunities to connect. If you guys don't mind me getting into all four components, the four that they teased out, I think all really scream Bridge 4. Bridge 4 is really good at all of them. It's the things that we can do that shape someone's sense of belonging. According to this article, are competence, number one, which is having skills to connect, right? Opportunities, like we mentioned, having spaces, having people that invite us in. That's number two. Number three is motivations, having a desire to seek out connection. And then number four is perception. Once you're in a group, do you really feel and believe that you belong there? And it's really cool because they all kind of influence each other in yourself and in your group. If you have more skills to connect, more social skills, you're going to have more opportunities and you're going to have a higher perception of your belonging, right? And if you have more opportunities, you're going to have more chances to build your competence, your social skills, and again, higher your perception, your belief of your belonging. And then motivation, right? If you have more of that, you're going to create more opportunities. So doing more of each of them, that kind of self-amplifies each other. And you really see in Bridge 4, at first they have no motivation to connect, but Kaladin inspires it in them, and gradually they give so much opportunity for each other, even though they're all very different people, even though they all have very different backgrounds, very different ages. They provide so much opportunity for each other to connect. They all believe and remind each other that they belong, and just really build this strong sense of belonging together.
That's awesome. Yeah, that totally goes with Bridge 4. I love that. Something that stuck out to me when you mentioned perception is a scene in Oathbringer. Is it? Yeah, it's Oathbringer, when there's a chapter where all of Bridge 4 is just learning how to use their powers, and everyone keeps coming to Rock and complaining that they're the odd man out. And so Rock helps them all out, and they all get their powers under control. And then they have like this little powwow, and Rock says, okay, everyone, raise your hand if you have come to me complaining that you don't fit in Bridge 4. And they all raise their hand, and they all kind of smile at each other, realizing that you might have problems, you might feel like you don't belong, but in reality, everyone's having those issues of not feeling like they belong. And so opening that up, like creating those opportunities and inviting the people in, will help you with that perception that even if you don't feel like you belong, everyone else is feeling the same way, and you really do belong.
Right.
I love that. Yeah, I think Bridge 4 is really good at, even when there's those moments where one of these four components isn't quite slotting in for somebody, doesn't feel like it's quite working for somebody, they call each other out and remind each other that they belong. They make it such a big, safe space that even Renarin, who wasn't on the bridge crew, once they're Dalinar's guard, he sees from the outside, I've been bullied my whole life, Renarin. He's been bullied his whole life, and he doesn't feel like he's belonged. I've been bullied my whole life. I don't feel like I belong. But look at this group. Like he could see that. These people are going to accept me. I can belong here.
Right. And using Renarin's example, he found that he sees this opportunity. He himself has a lot of motivation to seek out connection, right? And he perceives that, hey, there are so many, like this group, I might be able to fit in, and that really drives him to become part of Bridge 4.
Mm-hmm. Something I love that they're doing at that same time as they are making those connections, and you've already alluded to it a lot, Danielle, is that they're like calling each other out and they're holding each other accountable to be part of this group, and in a good way. They're not saying, hey, you only took half of the bridge's weight on that run and I took 3/4. You're not doing your part, and really nitpicking with each other, but they're saying, hey, you're looking down. Let's talk. Let's get through this so we can all be strong together. And that's something really important. I feel like that we need in life is just accountability, and those accountability partners to help us stay in our fixed values and what we want to accomplish in life. That way you have that person that can follow up with you. I'm imagining Legend of Zelda, the little fairy that flies around your head and says, hey, listen, except someone that you actually like instead of the fairy that lots of people did not like.
Yeah. And to your point too, this type of accountability cannot be built upon comparison. The biggest difference between someone who's calling you out for your good versus someone that is calling you out to put you down is the intention with comparison. Okay. In our society nowadays, we are often encouraged to compare ourselves to other people. And so a lot of the times accomplishments or a sense of power comes from putting other people down. And you're calling them out because that makes them look bad in the public and you look better. This is a negative example. But when
You're getting ahead to Moash here, Joseph. I'm thinking about
oh,
Moash.
we'll talk about that later. But when we're caring about this other person and wanting them to become better versions of themselves, we call them out. Maybe not always in a group setting. It's oftentimes that happens in a private setting where we'll talk with them and say, "Hey, here's a couple of things that I noticed," and or in a group setting, kind of like what Bridge 4 does in oftentimes is they will call them out and says, "You are part of us," right? They don't call them out to point out their faults. They call them out to show them we are all in the same boat.
They support each other's perception of belonging, reminding each other. Especially you think of Relaine is frequently like, he's an outsider at Urithiru. He's a Parshendi who, is part of Bridge 4. He switched sides, and he's an outsider at Urithiru. He's an outsider from the Singers, and everybody's telling him he doesn't belong except Bridge 4. All they do is continue to tell him that he does belong.
Those are powerful words when someone has never felt that. So I'm sure that just spoke volumes to them. Speaks volumes to people every day. I think a time that they really connect to for this time is when they're doing their daily stew. As I was thinking about this when we were thinking of this topic, I always thought that their daily stew was kind of like their mindful moment where it wasn't a super big thing they were doing. It's just dinner. But to them, it was the most important part of their day. I think it's in Rhythm of War where Dalinar, it's from Dalinar's perspective, and it says that Dalinar tried to get them to stop doing their daily stew because it's against regulations. They should be eating in a certain part of the camp, and they all refuse, and they all disobey the order. And Dalinar actually says, when a bunch of good soldiers aren't following your order, it's time to change the order. And so I think that the stew is just so important to them. It's such a part of their friendship and their culture in that friendship that it gives them a time to relax, connect, maybe they need a time to themselves, they just go off and stare into the fire, but it really grounds them and keeps them as a good group because they have this moment to be together.
It's one of their most iconic and meaningful ritual, right? And that in and of itself made the action of having dinner into something different.
Yeah, something you ritualize, something you repeat becomes a symbol and connects to whatever the meaning is behind why you're doing it or who you're doing it with. I really like in Rhythm of War, as Bridge 4 has grown into this huge order, and they're all the leaders of the military now, so they're not together. You know, Rock has left, especially the one who usually makes the stew is now gone. They're not together as often, but as individuals, continue to make the stew either for themselves or as a small group, or even just thinking about the stew unites them back to those roots of their group and their belonging.
Mhm.
When you repeatedly do something like this, it makes a connection, and now they could be anywhere and they could just make a stew, and that's immediately all they need to feel that connection they have to their friends, even though they're far away.
And this is another reason why, when in family therapy, we often encourage, especially parent and their children who are having relationship issues, to really make dinner time a time to just talk. Everyone's present. No one's using the phone. No one's watching TV. They're just present and design. They can design some a way to start conversations. It may take some time to kick off, but oftentimes it turns into a more meaningful time of just being seen, right? And that is one of the things that we often do is ritualize and adding meaning into these seemingly mundane things in life, and that can really create that sense of belonging.
It really works too. My family did that growing up. I didn't like it at the time, but there was no phones at the dinner table. And we always had to talk to each other. We needed to come home for dinner majority of the nights, even if we were out with friends. Something I do with my kids now. I think it's very useful. And then even with friend groups, it can work just having that meal together. A lot of the times when I was in high school, I worked at Papa Murphy's, the pizza place, and we would get a discount on the pizza. So we'd take the pizza back to one of my friends' houses and we cook it and just like eat it and play video games. But those are some of my fondest memories is just eating together, there's no phones out or anything. We're just all hanging out. So it really
Mhm.
works.
And it doesn't necessarily have to be dinner, but finding something you do every day is what helps you build that kind of ritual. When you're able to pair, we're going to make this meaningful, connective space and connect it with something that we do every day, helps ensure you continue to do it. And so it can become that powerful grounding space that we know no matter what happens today, I'm going to have my stew tonight.
Mhm.
Or no matter what happens tomorrow, I know I'm here right now with my friends eating my stew. It's a very grounding thing.
I love that. That actually brings me, Danielle, to what we wanted to talk about next was just having that culture of like gratitude and service with our friends. I believe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, in positive psychology, they say that you are happier when you are grateful. Is that right?
Yes. Yep. It is really corny. People don't want to do it because it sounds too simple. But the positive psychology research shows again and again that just having a little habits of gratitude and service can have a huge effect on your happiness, increasing your positive feelings, increasing your positive ways of viewing the world.
That's so cool. And I'm going to give an example about the stew real quick because if I remember right, now that I'm thinking about it, they all help in some way to prepare the stew or they all wash their own dish or something. They eventually give the dishes to Renarin to wash when he joins the group. And it's that service and then them all being grateful for Rock cooking, even if they joke about it, that it brings them together. And it also makes me think of when Kaladin first brings this group together. At first, he is faking it really hard to smile. Like I think the first 3 books, he's faking the majority of his smiles and his laughs, and still calls on him out on it every time. But that smile and the faking it, it brings real joy to other people. And it really does eventually bring him that same joy, at least at the very, very latest in Rhythm of War, when he finally laughs because his scars are falling off. I think that it's really powerful, and it even gets to him, and he goes through a lot.
And he's able to build that culture, that positive culture in his group, and initially by faking it.
Hmm.
Faking it, just taking the next step, just trying, has research roots in psychology too, that just, even if you're not fully ready yet, just practicing something, faking something can strengthen your ability, your habit of actually doing it more moving forward. And like it did for Kaladin here, even though he wasn't fully in it, it started to build that culture, and it started to draw that out in other people, that he could start building this great group that he had. He was able to make this big change even if he wasn't 100% fully ready to do so yet, which is huge when we can find a way to start moving towards our values, even if we don't feel great in that moment.
Mm-hmm. Right, because growth happens when we do something, not just when we think something, right? And so I don't really like the term "fake it till you make it" because it really isn't faking it; it's doing it until you become it.
Hmm.
That's powerful.
In our day to day, just trying to make a difference, just taking that next step, just going one step further on our journey, we slowly become that person we want to be, just that one step more at a time. It really, like faking it, it's kind of implying that your heart is not in it, or that you're doing something against your will, or that this is not something that you inherently find value in. But I believe for most people, if they're on a journey that is meaningful for them, it really isn't faking. Is you're trying to become it through doing it,
That's really good.
even if it emotionally doesn't feel like, oh, it's genuine yet. But you are trying to do something different so you can feel something different. Right? If we always do what we've always done, we'll always get what we've always gotten. To have growth, we have to try something different, and we'll always feel fake in the beginning, and that's okay.
Yeah. And where Bridge 4 really comes into play with Kaladin's, oh, how did you say it? Doing it until he becomes it. He was able to build these people up that could surround him and bolster him in that value, in that goal that he had to become a happier person. He didn't have people tearing him down and tearing the rest of the group down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they had really created an environment for genuine positive connection and growth.
Someone who really helps with that is the Lopin. I think his positivity was so helpful for that group.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, he was not doing until becoming. He had already become, and provided a great model for everybody to cultivate positivity and really, really lean into humor and seeing and talking about the good that is there in the midst of the struggle.
Yeah, and one of the things that you mentioned here, one of Lopin's biggest strength is his humor. It's almost immediately after he joined Bridge 4 that people are laughing more because he's always saying these ridiculous and just humorous things, and he's doing all these things that just introduce a different dynamic and introduce a different feeling to the group, and it really is where Lopin shines in enhancing this group dynamic.
I think something that helps is that he is just the most unlikely bridgeman ever. They all see it. For anyone that may have forgotten, Lopin starts out as a one-armed bridgeman. He literally is just carrying water for them, is his entire job, and he's out there vulnerable to the arrows too, and he just smiles and goes along with it and is always looking for ways to find the bright side. And I think that's something really important to a group, is having that laughter, as Joseph, you were saying, like having the laughter that he brings, a laughter in your group. It doesn't mean that everyone has to be the group clown or the class clown or anything, but sharing that laughter, I think, is something that really helped them bond as a group.
this is the type of contrast, right? Because when we are under stress, when we're not in a good situation, when we feel like life is hopeless, there are challenges that we struggle to overcome, and in these moments, when someone can genuinely make you laugh, like that is a beautiful thing, right? It's almost like a if we're envisioning a painting, it's like this beautiful sunset with this beautiful flower in a landscape that maybe doesn't look too great. If it's storming it, but then you see that ray of sunlight in there. That is where our attention can draw to that. Um, and that is the power of laughter and humor.
And that can cause a shift. As you're facing whatever you're going through initially, your body might be metabolizing it as what we call distress. This is painful, this is suffering. But as you're able to laugh, able to start to look at some positive things that can help you change your perspective and start approaching the problem as more of a challenge, to be overcome rather than something distressing to run away from or fix, but more of a challenge that you can now metabolize, working on it more as stress, the good stress. Cultivating this positivity can help us make that shift.
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, and in the book, Kaladin even talked about how seeing other people smile kind of forces away the gloom. That's a direct quote from the book. I don't remember where, but for Kaladin, with his battle with feeling that depression, feeling that darkness, being with his friends, seeing them laughing with them, and experiencing all these things with them does push the darkness away.
I don't think he could have gone through any of it without just these various things that he helped build in Bridge 4, but also that Bridge 4 helped give him. So that friend group, I think it literally saved his life. I know that he has his moment at the Honor Chasm, but I think he would have had many more moments at the Honor Chasm contemplating ending his own life if he didn't have that group of friends. Especially Teft. I feel like Teft was like his anchor.
Yes.
Should we get more into Teft?
Yes.
Yeah, go for it. Do you want to give us a summary, Danielle, of who Teft is?
Yeah, so Teft is a member of Bridge 4. He was one of the closest to Kaladin, one of the first who, believed him and started to help him bring light back to Bridge 4 and lead them into their glorious future. He was second in command for a while, and Teft also, he had a history with, he knew about the old Radiant Oaths and was able to kind of be a mentor for Kaladin as well as he was learning about those and starting to swear and follow the oaths.
Yeah. And he was no perfect person. Anyone in the Bridge Crews has some baggage. Teft was struggling with lots of things himself, including a fire moss addiction. So he wasn't coming in and being like the perfect mentor figure you see a lot in other books like Dumbledore for Harry Potter. But he was literally a friend for Kaladin that had his own struggles, and they really dive into that, especially in books 2 and 3. And so it's cool to see how they really help each other out. Is there a better term than peer pressure, where they put peer pressure on each other for good things? I'm trying to think of a better term.
A positive influence on each other.
Yeah, positive influence. That's way better than peer pressure. So they put that positive influence for each other. If you guys recall, in Way of Kings, Teft is always trying to get Kaladin to use his powers and things like that, almost secretly at first. He's kind of trying to sneak it in. And at the same time, Kaladin is trying to get Teft to own up his leadership skills and take a bigger part of the crew. I think he actually tricks Teft into it at some point. He says something and Teft acts like a lieutenant and then realizes that now he's the lieutenant of the squad. I love it.
Yep. They help each other become who they know they can become.
Yeah.
They really see the best in each other and then draw that out, which is a beautiful thing for friends to do.
Yeah.
I think
they help us grow towards our values rather than just wasting our time and wasting our life away.
Exactly. Took the words right out of my mouth. They definitely help each other with their values. And I think what helps them a lot is the way that they are just completely open with each other, and they communicate very bluntly with each other, not disrespectfully, but very bluntly.
Yeah, Teft especially is a very blunt person. But I think it's because they have unconditional love for each other and they know that. They can be blunt and open with each other because they know there's only love behind it. They see each other in really dark places. Teft sees Kaladin's struggle with his depressive feelings, and his darkness, he calls it. And Kaladin finds Teft after some drug addiction relapses, but they're able to. They don't pass any judgment on each other. They just show love and support, and because of that, they're able to be big forces for growth and support for each other.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, instead of Kaladin, after finding Teft, Kaladin could have chastised him in a way that shamed him.
He could have voiced the same things that Teft was already telling himself about himself.
Mm-hmm. Right, that he's useless, he's just an addict. But he didn't do that. He just said, okay, well, let's bring you back. Let's pull you back up. Let's dust you off. And if you need someone to talk to, I'm right here for you. And that is the type of, this is how you support someone, right? Not to shame them for having weaknesses, because we all do.
Right. And it would be totally different if he had done that. Teft would have stayed there shaming people like that. I want to say it never works. I don't think anyone ever has a lasting behavior change out of pure shame. I think it usually just drives them further down in that. I know, at least for me, it's like, why even try if people are already seeing everything I'm seeing? I'm not changing. But because Kaladin was able to show that, as you said, unconditional love and say, yeah, you know what? You did mess up, and tomorrow's a new day. Let's focus on tomorrow, and let's just keep going.
Mm-hmm. Right. He's not letting him get away, like get out of, the addiction, but he's also like, okay, you have this addiction, but we're still here for you. And we can work through this. Now, how are we going to figure that out? How are we going to manage this? And yeah, research continuing to show that shaming people do not bring a lasting change. And so if you feel like you could shame someone into changing, that is not going to work.
Amen.
When you're motivated to avoid being shamed or avoid your own thoughts about what you're doing or get away from something that's unpleasant, that motivation it's fleeting, because as soon as it feels too hard, you give up. It's finding the motivation for something positive. Teft wanted to be something more, and Kaladin, and they helped show each other, how can we become, something more. And that's what really pulled them forward.
Mm-hmm. I love that they were looking for ways to be together too. Not like every single second of the day they're always together, but they're looking for ways to experience life together. And that's something that good friends will do for you, is finding ways to be a part of your life, as we previously mentioned. And something that Teft does to exhibit that is that he stays with Kaladin in Rhythm of War. Kaladin has been relieved of duty by Dalinar because he's gotten the battle shock and he's struggling to say his next oath. And instead of going off with Bridge 4, Teft benches himself with Kaladin. Teft claims that it's for his own good, and I agree, Teft probably needed it as well. But he also did it to help Kaladin go through his next thing, which is really powerful in their friendship, to show that even if one of them's going through something tough, the other one might give up some of their glory that they're getting as being part of the front lines of Bridge 4 and go and help them get through the next chapter of their life.
Mm-hmm.
I think there's a culture nowadays in a lot of societies that we want to share fun things with our friends, but we suffer alone. And, we entertain guests, but we cancel plans if we're not feeling well. And here, and a lot of times Teft and Kaladin show to each other that they're willing to be there with each other in the good and the bad, through thick and through thin. And you see, even Teft himself, he's preaching that Kaladin, you need your friends when you're down. But then when he feels embarrassed about his addiction, he doesn't want to talk to his friends about it. We all get this, where we know we want to be with our friends when they're struggling, but we don't feel like we're worthy for them to be with us when we're struggling. When in reality, they're oftentimes thinking the same thing, that they want to be with us, they want to help. We just need to show them how and when to do so.
Mm-hmm. Right. People cannot read your mind. So we have to be the one that opens up to invite others in when we struggle.
And being there for somebody when they're struggling, or having people with you when you're struggling, isn't pleasant. It's not the fun, entertaining guests experience that we seek out a lot of times. But even though unpleasant, it can still be really meaningful. I always think about a few years ago, Joseph and I had a miscarriage, and the day we found out, we're grieving and in this dark place, and we had several friends come over, and I just remember us all sitting in our living room in silence. And it was such a meaningful experience, and just a comparative experience for me to think about. The week before, we'd had all those same friends sitting in our living room for karaoke night. This is the room that we entertain in. But they just came and they sat, and we didn't I don't even think we offered them drinks. I don't even think anybody got any water. But they were willing to just come and sit with us. And there's nothing you can say sometimes when people are grieving, and they didn't have answers. They didn't have things to say. They were just there. And I'll always remember having so many people just there.
Yeah. And I definitely, recalling that experience, it definitely was a moment where I personally felt like our friendship with those people that came over were deepened because of that
Yes.
experience.
We're going to participate in this human experience together. We're going to have more belonging together, and journey before destination.
Yeah, that's how you've got some really good friends, is that they're there for you even in those tough times. If they're leaving because you didn't offer them a drink, then that they're not your friend. They're just there to be entertained.
Yep.
I think a lot of people do want to help. They just don't know how. So being willing to open up and invite others when you need help, not just when you have something fun to offer them. You'll be surprised how often people are excited by the opportunity to serve and to help you if you give them the opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
No, that's a really good point.
And this is also an opportunity for you to really sit through who are actually good friends and who are not.
Mm-hmm. And we're not saying that any person that wasn't there the very second you had a hard time isn't your good friend. Sometimes, like Danielle said, they just don't know how to help. And so taking a moment to realize, are you giving those people those opportunities to help? I know that's something that I probably don't do very well, is if I need help, I hide until I don't need help anymore, which I probably still need help. Let's be totally honest. I'm not doing it very well by myself if I'm always hiding. So looking to see if you're giving those opportunities, because as much as they tried not to, Kal and Teft gave each other opportunities and got pretty good at it by the end. They were giving each other those opportunities.
But they both definitely hid. They both tried to hide, but they were pretty
they did.
forceful with each other too. Like, you need help, you need me, I will be here for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Do that with your friends too. Drag them out if you need to, in a loving way.
Yeah, if you have a close enough relationship, you can get away with that, and that could be really helpful to tell them, I see that you're struggling and I am here. I am going to be here and love you. Let me love you.
Let me love you. Oh man, I love that. I love Teft and Kaladin's relationship so much. It almost makes me not want to get into the other guy. But we need to. We need to address the evil elephant in the room.
For every Teft that there is out there in the world, there is oftentimes another Moash.
Ugh. Yeah.
Unfortunately, there are people out there that aren't good friends.
I almost feel like I need to give a warning for anyone that has any sort of sympathy and likes Moash as a character. None of us do. So the next little bit, it's gonna be bagging on him. So just be prepared.
I have some sympathy for Moash as a character.
Oh, just kidding.
I don't know if we'll get into it too much here.
Moash can have our sympathy, but he will not have our empathy.
Let's do a summary. Moash, also in Bridge 4, right there at the beginning, also got pretty close to Kaladin at the beginning, and joined up to inspire everybody else, became a leader amongst Bridge 4 as they escaped the bridge crews. But pretty soon after escaping the bridge crews, he gets caught up on focusing on ways to get revenge on King Elhokar, because King Elhokar had done some things that had hurt both Moash and Kaladin's families. So, coming out of the bridge crews and having an opportunity to get back at King Elhokar, Kaladin chooses against revenge and rises above that, but Moash betrays Bridge 4, pursues revenge anyway, succeeds with it, and gets picked up by Odium, the big bad, who takes his guilt away and uses that initial feeling of vengeance to continue to groom Moash to work for him and turn into the worst character that everybody struggles with. Everybody dislikes to this day.
I always have trouble thinking about it because it makes me frustrated. I don't know where it is. Like, what happens with Moash? Where does he become this toxic example? Because he's in the same situation. Is it his mindset? Did he miss some really important bridge stew or something? I just never get it.
Sometimes it's even with the same type of environment, because he was there like with the bridge crew. He was there for the stew. He'd been through the training. He'd been through the bridge runs, everything, right? But what he did, I think that separated him from the rest of the bridge crew is he feels like the world owes him something, and he fixated on revenge being the way that he can to balance things out without really realizing that, hey, you have a second chance to be something better, to be something more, and not be like those people that have hurt you. But he focuses too much of his own pain, and he refused to let this band of Brotherhood to heal him, to let them influence him to become something better.
I agree. I think it comes to where he decides to orient his attention, because he's there. He's got this group. He's got this belonging. He's got this stew, and he can choose to focus on that and be present with that. But he decides instead to focus on the wrongs that were done to him in the past, and continue to feed into that so much that that's all that matters. That even if I leave what I have now, even if I leave the stew and the friends, this vengeance is what matters. And even if Kaladin's not agreed anymore, I'm going to do it even though Kaladin doesn't want me to, for Kaladin's greater good. He says things like that, that he gets so caught up in justice needs to be served so much to the point that now I need to prove that to me and to everyone, and that's all that matters, even though things have changed. Elhokar's a different. I don't know that Elhokar even knows what he did.
He didn't realize.
But Elhokar is growing, and Moash has other opportunities now, and he gives those up because he gets focused on just the one outcome.
Right. And Moash sees himself vindicated in doing something immoral. And he is continuing trying to justify it to Kaladin, wanting Kaladin to agree with him. This is the right thing to do. But he actually is trying to convince himself that this is the right thing to do, and he should be able to do this and not face the consequences of his action.
Yeah, I feel like he starts putting, now that I've thought about it and we've talked about it, I think he starts putting just these values which are misguided and against the values of their group in general. He's trying to force them on everyone else, and he's trying to just go for them no matter what. And it damages the relationship because he's stopping the things that gave him that belonging. He's not looking for those opportunities anymore. He's kind of seeing himself as different because he's got this other group, and Kaladin's not agreeing with him anymore. And so he almost, because he does that, like, he just kind of falls out of the group. And then even once he realizes what he's done, he feels like he can't go back, and he uses that same misguided values of, well, fine then, like, I don't need them anyways, and I'm just gonna not feel anything. And it taints him and starts tainting everyone around him.
He also got in with a bad group of people, the diagram. The diagram people continue to gas him on, saying that, oh yeah, Elhokar is not a good king. We should kill him and overthrow him. You know, so choose your friends wisely because on one hand, the Bridge Four want what is best for him, but the diagram people that he ended up hanging out with only wants to use him to further their own goals.
They really do. And that peer pressure, now I can actually use the term peer pressure because it applies. That peer pressure can get you. If those people are saying those things and enough people are saying it, oftentimes you end up believing it regardless of where you started if you surround yourself with those beliefs. So when he started choosing to hear that more than what Bridge 4 was telling him, then that's when he started bringing the group down and he started becoming that friend that was going down that path. I feel like lots of people listening, I know I've seen it, I've seen a friend end up in a place that you couldn't go with them because of the choices they made and it just didn't follow your life. And as much as you want to help that friend, it's tough to see that the best thing you can do for you and the rest of your friends is to not follow sometimes.
And they give him plenty of opportunities to come back. They kept being there for him and inviting him to the stews even as he stopped attending, as he was spending more time with the diagram and plotting, and even after he had killed Elhokar, they had moments where they would fight and they would say, like, I can't think of explicit quotes, but
tells him to keep himself in because that's the right thing to do. Like Kaladin continues to try to help him see reason and help him to do the right thing.
Yeah, they're willing to still, unconditional love. They're willing to still accept him. But he gets so caught up then afterwards in, I've now left this great place. I need to justify that decision. And I think afterwards, his continued focus, ruminating about the past and justifying his decisions, turns Bridge 4, turns them, instead of being this redemptive opportunity and place of safe space of belonging and growth, turns them into a threat, right? Kaladin is now my enemy. I need to convince Kaladin to admit that I was right, because if Kaladin's right, then what does that say about me? He gets very stuck on justifying himself rather than looking at the situation for what it is and following, he had a choice he continues to have the choice to follow more the path he's down or take more Dalinar route of, redemption and change.
He focused too much on his own ego to admit that he is wrong and that he needs help and that there are people that are willing to love me and accept me.
Yeah. And just because you see some of your friends exhibiting some of these, you could call them red flags, you can call them warning signs, doesn't mean that they are all of a sudden irredeemable. You can have those moments just like Bridge 4 did, and majority of people will respond to that and say, oh, you're right, and they can change and you can help them change. It's when they start persisting in that direction and aren't listening to you and are trying to prove you wrong and are actively fighting against you that it becomes a sign that it's something that maybe isn't the best thing for your friend group or for your friendship.
If they're doing something that's going to actively harm you, then you need to be...
Oh,
yeah. Disconnect yourself from people who are hurting you and don't have your best interest in mind.
I feel like I need to say something positive before we get to the invitation, because that was a gloomy topic.
Well, I think we did touch on the redemptive properties, which you guys didn't think we would, but I think we all said it. People can be redeemed. People can change.
That's true.
The further they walk down the path, the more restitution they'll have to do, and it's a more treacherous journey to come back.
Moash keeps digging himself into a deeper and deeper hole.
I guess we can remember that Kaladin started walking down that path with Moash, but he did turn around. He got those same opportunities as Moash, and he turned around and became the awesome Kaladin that we all love, because that's one of my favorite scenes in all the books, is when he puts himself in between Moash and the king and says, you can't have him, and he just lives his values and becomes that Knight Radiant that we can all be in our lives.
I think that's his third ideal, right? I will protect even those I hate. If it is right.
Yeah. Yes, it was. So powerful.
Which is a difference between the two of them, that Moash was very focused on, I need to prove myself right. I need to do what's right for me. And Kaladin was able to look beyond himself and recognize some choices Elhokar has made isn't right for me, but Elhokar is important to Dalinar. Elhokar is Dalinar's TN. Elhokar has other things that he is important to, and there's more to life than what's directly happened to me.
That feels like a happier spot. Did you guys have anything more you wanted to say before our invitation?
And just to kind of sum things up for that whole section, the biggest difference between Moash and Kaladin is like what Danielle said. Kaladin chose and acted based on the value he has, while Moash didn't. He focused on his own ego instead. And we can all make that. We can all make the right choice in our lives as well.
We can have our Bridge 4 around us to help us do the same thing in our lives too.
Yes. Yeah. Surround yourself with greatness and you will become greatness.
Yes. Become great. Have those great people. So that brings us to our invitation. We've given you guys a lot of different things about Bridge 4. So the invitation we want to give you is to examine one of your closest relationships, examine the Bridge 4 people in your life, and look for ways that you can build each other up. You can set goals to strengthen that relationship through ideas that Bridge 4 has modeled. You can come up with your own goals based on those, or find just the different ways that will help your friendship grow stronger, whichever relationship in your life you choose to do. But find a way to do something more to strengthen each other.
Yeah, we know that if you choose to work on one small thing at a time, you will find your relationship will be enhanced.
Yeah, then one day you're going to look back and see that you started in a bridge crew of Bridge 4, but now your relationship is like the royal guard for Dalinar, and you guys have just gone to high, amazing places because you stuck together, because you took the time to have your Bridge 4.
Be that person. Be Kaladin in this case, in creating that environment, creating those opportunities for your Bridge 4 to grow. Thank you for joining us. We hope you have felt inspired to take the next step on your journey. Please share your thoughts and experiences and ask your questions using the comment function or by emailing us at fantasyframeworkstherapy@gmail.com. We would love to hear from you. You can also follow us on Facebook for in-between episode updates, and remember to learn from the journey. We want to thank Kryogenic Design for our updated art thumbnail, and Dr. Dave Schramm and Rex Polanis from the Stronger Marriage podcast for their mentoring in getting this podcast started.